Hope you all are having a wonderful day. Hopefully, you guys can hear me right now as we deal with wonderful world of Discord. So cool, guys. Today we'll kind of just do a quick recap of the market. This will be a shorter session, just seeing kind of where the new meta is going. How we want to think through. Block 840,000. I'm going to give you some helpful tips and tools as well on a few other areas. We'll briefly touch on splitting UTXOs if you haven't done that yet. Especially since fees are low right now, it's a great time to consider it. Separately, we're also going to spend a little bit of time to talk about, how to also update a few other things on your wallet side to give you just a little bit of edge when everything happens on block 840,000, including how to like actually update your wallets within Google Chrome, so that you're at on the up to latest builds of these wallets. That'll be important because a lot of these guys are all pretty much going to be dropping last minute changes, if not daily updates, if not hourly updates, to their wallets, and making sure that you're running on it with the most recent rune information and protocols that they're building out will be also important. So we'll touch on a few of these elements. Lastly, we'll touch on some market conversations. There's some interesting stuff around OCM. We're also going to talk about what does this market look like as a lot of people race to capture liquidity. And then if there's other ideas and options coming out, let's talk about it because there's still actually quite a few minutes tomorrow too. Well, let's kind of just check in and see how the market's doing, and that's why we always start with our wonderful ord pool here and kind of just understanding the details of the market. So real quick, what we are seeing is like, hey, this is actually one of the few times that I'm surprised fees are this low. But it does give you just a sentiment that there's peak times and off times still as we lead into the halving. Because just like, I don't know, 15 blocks ago, we were around 70 sats, 120 sats 3 hours ago. There are a few spikes, but surprisingly, it's been pretty reasonable for the last 6 hours. But during the day, it was brutal. If you guys saw that, right? 7, 8 hours ago. When I say during the day, I apologize. During the day of US American time. So this was 1 p.m. Pacific here in the US when I'm looking at our 2 p.m. Pacific. We were starting to see insane sats. We had this huge run of 184 sats, 172 sats. And this was because there was one really long block here that held up a lot of things. But the market just shows, where that activity is going to go. We can also see some new mints. I don't know what this is, but someone's paying a decent chunk of change to get a few artifacts in at the last minute. But generally, what we are seeing is that the market is still cooling down with liquidity, even when SAT fees aren't that high. And what do I mean by that? Well, we are still seeing a decent dump starting to occur on a few projects, but there is still some rallying around on Bitcoin here as well. If we just kind of look in here, right, we've now seen Bitcoin puppets has dropped under zero point 0.4. It was around 0.44. So, it's dropped at, on 0.06, it's dropped 15% in the last like 36 hours. Quantum Cats has been looking really good actually with their kind of bullish announcements on, they're trying to solve a better way to mint runes is kind of what Udi has hinted at. So that's led to a little bit of buy pressure here as well. We saw Rune Doors kind of come out, not really moving too much, a lot of buys, but still kind of stuck at this low price point, still around 10% listed here as well. Ape Odyssey dipped back down under 0.03, was sitting around 0.034, 0.035 over the weekend, but again, dipping down. Outside of that, OMB still holding its current price. Bitcoin Frogs really kind of jumping between 0.08 to 0.1 at the moment right now as well. If we expand this, right, what we'll start seeing is that, these small caps are starting to get really hit and they're going to struggle. Even Tiny Vikings as a mid cap, has pulled down another 20%, now back down to 0.01 BTC. What we are seeing is that, is there going to be enough buy pressure that kind of comes into this market? New mint and clay puppets, again, not doing awful. It's up 3x from its mint price. It minted at 0.0003. So it's actually up 4x on its mint price. Got a good amount of volume, but as you can see with a lot of these type of open mints, they tend to have really high listing percentages, right? So sitting at 20% right out the gates here as well. Ein Runestar again dips a little bit, but still, if you look at the actual collection, there's only like 20 listed below like 0.09, so it's fairly thin. But you're seeing a little bit of creeping up and not a lot of buy pressure because there just really aren't many catalysts coming out here as well. So overall, the market is kind of going as we expected. There really hasn't been anything too counterintuitive yet. I think really the biggest thing we might want to take away from this market here at the moment right now is recognizing that, as we kind of pump, people are going to get desperate to have liquidity leading in over these next 3 days. So, again, this is a great time to get offers in, as we've been telling you guys. Just drop in offers and collections that you'd actually want to hold for 4 weeks. You kind of want to assume you're holding it through the pre-rune to post-rune mania, which probably is like a 2 to 4 week cycle, probably on that higher end too. So you just want to keep that in the back of your mind as you kind of engage in this market. Really, outside of that, the other thing that we're starting to see is a lot of people are trying to slam through mints kind of at the last minute, which is, I think, a very bad decision from a lot of these guys. Reason for that, one is like you want to recognize is that the fees are so volatile that if you get the wrong window when your mint should start, right, it might be really hard to mint out or get that attention again because the gas fees just put your mint price underwater. So that's really surprising. The other thing is that, as people are right now working their hardest to get liquidity, it's probably the worst time to ask people to part for their liquidity prior to one of the largest, liquidity events happening here as well. So I'm actually very unsure what the strategy is on a lot of these projects. And some of these are really competent projects too, right? I think that's probably they've kind of moved to kind of get out of this window. We have Ordzar tomorrow, which is a little bit, hyped at the moment at in this market. It's another marketplace trying to build a small supply Genesis pass. Could be really interesting around that 2100 number. There's a few other mints going out tomorrow as well. I don't feel like any of them are really going to be extremely, extremely solid. But what we want to do is we want to learn. We want to see how much liquidity people have on the sidelines for this, and can any of these really capture a narrative up. But the honest truth, it just seems like everyone's just trying to add runes into their strategy and throw something out there. And we kind of saw this really massively backfire on a few teams, including On-Chain Monkey this past week. Although this wasn't actually part of the official On-Chain Monkey team, it does have a lot of correlation because it is a community initiative, and it is actually backed by the VC that has also funded OCM, and someone who actually has a really large impact on the market in Jason Fang from Sora Ventures. And what we saw in this kind of FUD here is that we saw a community initiatives really not land and have a good understanding of the impact of what those assets were. And this led them to dropping out a few things initially, including Karma Card and Karma Stone. And Karma Card first came out, and you had to own some of the Karma token on the TAP protocol, and that led to a correlation of you being able to claim that card. And a lot of people expected a lot of future value out of that, right? If this is your Genesis asset from a community initiative, or if it's the first asset, a lot of people believe it's going to be Genesis yield. And then surprisingly, earlier today or yesterday, what we ended up seeing is that, the team at Karma Coin, or sorry, at Karma's, the coin, or yeah, Karma Stone. I mean, Lord knows how many I have to follow here at the moment right now. I guess, yeah, Karma Coin. Yeah, this is it, right? We end up realizing these guys are going to try to do a massive raise. And what I mean massive, and they're trying to do it literally, like I'm talking the day before halving. So Jason Sora comes out because I'm on my shit, it won't show. I'll have to get the exact tweet, but I'll do that here just really quickly. He ends up oh, thank you. Shiroy's already put it out there. Shiroy's on top of this shit. Really appreciate it, buddy. So this was kind of the response that he had. Sorry, let me show this real quick. So they were actually initially thinking about doing a 30,000 collection, kicking that out, and charging $1,000 per person. So that would be a $30 million raise the day before halving, and they only gave the market 6 days notice on this, right? Which is kind of insane. And there was really no understanding, if any, value of owning the Karma cards, which was the other asset before this. And it just looked really, honestly, totally out of touch from the market. And this is a huge kind of slip up here, because what you're seeing is that people just don't really understand what's happening. And this is coming from a reputable investor who pushed this information out, right? So he got railed. He got railed. Even like Puppet, right? Le Puppet from Bitcoin Puppets founder was just saying like, "Oh guys, I'm looking to do a 30,000 drop at $1,000. You guys in?" And he gets roasted, right? Jason just gets roasted left and right. And essentially, what you start realizing is that there's not a good understanding of their thesis of what they're doing. Right now, what we essentially have is that, they're now starting to kind of take some feedback. It's like we can still launch a 30,000 collection. Whitelist will be offered to only Karma and Karma card holders, and whitelist holders will be given free mint. After free mint, we will go directly to public mint, which is a low fee mint. So you raise just enough to cover the cost of launching Karma Stone and Karma Runes airdrop. Still aiming for 19th on Magic Eden. So, I still think this strategy is really broken, right? Like, I think it really is broken. There's not a reason for this token to exist. There's not a real reason for utility beyond this. To be very honest, On-Chain Monkey has not been doing as well as they would hope they would have done. And I think that's a really amazing team. Like, shout out to Danny, shout out to everyone. But this is probably one of the most disconnected things we saw. And, the good thing is, like, shout out to Jason and give him credit, dude. He joined some AMAs today and got reamed. And he answered the best he could. They weren't always perfect answers, but he was doing really well, at least willing to answer and try to justify it. But this is also what I want to just share with you is like, I hope Karma and OCM figure it out, right? Like, I really do. I have no reason to root against them. But this is also the mania that comes with this market, right? Everyone starts thinking, oh shit, there's so much. Let's try to get some insane amount of money. And they're all kind of underestimating it, right? But it's also crazy because I say this because go look at Soul Shitcoins and you can see what you could raise off one tweet and one awful meme image, right? So like this market is very different. And now you have to figure out, how many people are going to try extracting at this last minute. So one of my biggest advices I tell you about this is that, really be diligent on where you're putting capital in this upcoming week. There are going to be a lot of people who are going to overpromise and deliver, but I'm just letting you know, if there were a real project that was ready for runes, they would not have been doing a paid mint this week, right? Like, why would you ever risk your fees being this high? Why would you ever try keeping it this close to having without really building it up? There's usually a correlation there that these are people who are looking to extract, right? If it's a free mint and an airdrop this week, awesome, do it. Those people are legends. We want more people like that. But anyone who's trying to take capital out of this ecosystem and it feels like it's been, just less than a 1 or 2 week idea, push back on those. That's not where you want to allocate. And you're going to see a lot of this. And not only are you going to see it this week before, you're going to see it the week after runes. A whole bunch of shitty rune projects are going to come. And this is where you got to be diligent. And I share this as well because OCM is really interesting, right? They were ETH first community, but if you know Danny, he was always a Bitcoin maxi. Like he ran the Bitcoin startup community at Stanford like decades ago, right? Like decades ago, right? And I think this is kind of where it's insane. He's been there from the start. He always wanted to come to Bitcoin, right? He even built an exchange. I think the largest Bitcoin exchange, I think it's in Taiwan at the time. So like Danny's legit, right? And he always wanted to come to Bitcoin. But the truth was he built his audience on ETH and tried to pull them over, that they really didn't get the true OG Ordinal credit, unfortunately, right? Like they weren't considered the first 10,000, right? A lot of people now consider, right, the first 10,000 being, node monkeys, at least from original art, but then you could also debate that, right? Is it, what are those? What is that animal that I'm now forgetting? honey badgers, right? Or the badgers, right? Like maybe that was one of the first, but really OCM didn't get that credit. And I bring this up because I think a lot of ETH communities who are thinking they could just come over to Ordinals without building an Ordinals community are going to struggle. Because the other news that we got this week is out of nowhere, somehow CyberKongs is doing an Ordinals play. And this is interesting because I also have a lot of respect for cybercoms. They massively opened up the era of this market, right? For essentially that, the first to utilize ERC20 tokens in conjunction essentially with a, ERC 721 NFT or PFP. And with that, it led to a huge evolution of the token based economy and where ETH has been thus far. So they deserve a lot of credit for that. But what we've seen is that after becoming that first leader, and if you remember in the early part of ETH market, if you were here, CyberKongs was the number one PFP in floor price. It wasn't even close. It was all because of Banana at the time, right? It was like there were spreadsheets out there showcasing, like, if you keep a Kong for 1 year, it's going to make you $360,000. We're all going to win and we're all going to be amazing. And yeah, it hit the highest floor price. It was higher than punks, higher than apes, higher than everything. It was nuts, right? And give them credit, they took that. But ever since that, Kongs have kind of struggled a little bit to find their footing. They did, after VFX, which was pretty cool. But, after that, they did the Genkai Mint that was kind of a flop last year. More importantly, they actually found a small win in that launch, which was with Ronin, not our Ronin, but the Ronin platform with Axie Infinity. They had actually realized to actually bring their users there, and they got a little bit of traction there. And then they essentially moved the entire Genkai collection, or in the process of moving the entire Genkai collection over to that Ronin chain. And we've seen a lot of success on Ronin. Yep, Pixels has been really huge on that, etc. And then out of nowhere, it's really interesting. CyberKongs now claims that they're going to be doing a very large airdrop, 21,000, and randomly put it on Ordinals and on the Rune protocol. The good thing is they're doing this as an airdrop for free, right? Which is cool. Like, I want to give them a lot of credit. It's an airdrop for free, at least. It's not charging users. But at the same time, it's really surprising that they're spending all this money, and really they only did like 1 week of pre-marketing going to that point. I'm actually worried about that because that's not going to be a token people will want to ape. That's the token that people will want to dump to then ape the stuff they want in Ordinal OG stuff. So I'm very intrigued to see kind of how these strategies work. And that's just the hypothesis I'm holding now. And I'm sharing this out loud right now, right? For you guys to realize that we should have this conversation in 2-3 weeks after the CyberKong's airdrop and see how it plays out. On paper, it shouldn't work. On paper, it doesn't make sense. On paper, it feels disconnected. But as we know, anything in crypto, nothing is guaranteed. Anything can change. Anything can move. And at least I applaud, CyberKongs by not doing it as a paid mint. And they are doing a curation strategy where they're trying to give weighted results to all these OG Ordinal collections. But at the same time, if they were doing that, they probably should have been building a larger campaign of why they should be on Ordinals, right? Or what's their value in being it. And that's something I still would recommend you to consider when you are talking with a lot of teams, right? Ordinals is quite different than any other chain. It's not as like, let's just flip JPEGs and number go up. Don't get me wrong, that's still like 90% of it, right? That's like, on this chain. We'll never deny, right, what the degen mindset is. But at least with Ordinal, there's also this appreciation of caring about this Bitcoin mothership chain, the technology and the primitives that were introduced, and like giving honor to the way this has been designed thus far. And in doing so, I think it's really important to find teams who either understand it or who have been living it as well. Not just teams who are coming from the outside trying to apply their value because they see a liquidity opportunity come up. And I'm telling you, most Ordinal whales are thinking very similar, right? It's funny. I'm in one of these Ordinal chats, and all it was is like, someone dropped the link on Prometheans, is what it's called, from CyberKongs. And pretty much the number one reaction and highest upvoted comment on that
was yay, free liquidity for what I actually want on ordinals, right? Or what I actually want on runes. And that's what people are looking at a lot of these things, right? It's just consuming liquidity because I think the airdrop meta for rune tokens is actually kind of no longer going to work because the market meta caps have been presented already that most people will want to use your new asset as exit liquidity to position for the assets that they have more conviction or awareness on as well. So that's at least a hypothesis that I've traditionally held. I don't know if it's true. I want to see if it's true, but I want to say it out loud to you guys so that we could also evaluate it together. But again, the feedback here is like I'm still betting on like more OG Ordinal or people who really understand Ordinal tech culture and onboarding. That's what I really want to see in this market. And I think when you get that right, you could really get something big and you could really find teams that you want to bet on. So I still wish, like, Cyberkongs are going to get it right. But in the end, right, it's not the team that I'm looking to bet on or accumulate on ordinals, right? I want to keep going more towards OGs and more towards people who are building native communities here as their priority, right? Like, ordinals are their number one thing. If you do that, I think you're going to get a lot better connection and correlation to upside success. And yeah, Prof J's right. Bunch of airdrops of bullshit incoming. That's 100% true. Like everything that you're going to see here in this market, you're just going to get a bunch of these being airdropped here. And most of them will be garbage, or most of them are going to be rotated really quickly into the conviction plays. So, just something to think about. We're going to hear a lot more about these plays over the next week or two. Again, all I can say is any new airdrop right now not coming from an OG, I'm fading. I'm incredibly fading. The only legitimate new announcement that could get me actually excited in this market, right? If they were to announce this week, is someone like Quantum Cat, OMB, or Node Monkeys noting their native token coming out. Then fuck yeah, I'm getting excited for that. But really anything outside of that, it looks like you were being either impatient or you didn't understand the strategy of actually connecting with the community here as well. So that's where I'm curious to see where it's going to play out. Yeah, Dweezy, great to have you here. Just the opinion of Jason Fang, it's a clear miss on what they're doing, right? I still don't think he should be rushing anything the day before halving. It's a total incorrect thesis when this is the point when people are seeking liquidity. Why are you trying to on the market? And the truth is, even when we look at this answer, it's not a great answer. It just means that at least all of us with karma cards aren't going to fully zero, right? I have a small bag of karma cards because I did like the idea of a community token here, especially for OCM. I actually think an OCM token from the community runs better than the native token internally to a certain extent because it would have injected meme culture here in a very interesting way, in my opinion, if we really got to see that. But unfortunately, we just see a massive miss. So what they're now going to try doing here, and we see this here with Jason, is, they'll try doing some whitelist holders will be given free mint. Great. So we're going to get some liquidity. And whoever is going to do this low fee mint, Lord knows who these people are. But, if he is going to try doing this, right, essentially he's killing his market cap relatively quickly. So for those of us who may get it for free, great, let's just bag hold that for free. And if at any first sign of liquidity, try to kick out, right? Like try to take some profit on that. But outside of that, I think he's already shot himself in the foot, and this is no longer as interesting. And this is the challenge now, right? Is that, you almost need more meme DAO launches, right? You don't want structured venture capital DAO launches. And this is actually where I think Jason has crossed over to the wrong side of crypto Twitter, right? And what I mean by that is that he should have just been a VC pumping bags for all of the investments he's making and let those sub communities be the primary narrative and be bullish on that. But because he's trying to be the product operator as well, he's now allowing himself to be a lightning rod for attacks, which should not be his role. It should not be what he wants to do either. And I'm sure after today, he hated it, right? But this is the challenge, right? Is that if he's going to keep jumping in, Like, this is going to be a real large challenge for him. And I think the fact that he's still trying to rush this through the 19th is super bearish. It's super bearish, right? If he really wants to get this right, in my opinion, he needs to be like, okay, we totally fucked up. Like, we were trying to do a 30 million raise, 6 days notice for a fucking community token for a project that's not even promoted by the core team. Like, who the fuck thought this? And the fact that if you think about OCM, and I love OCM, but OCM has like almost very little liquidity on ordinals right now. This was not the play or the project to be doing it for. But again, this just shows you where the case of this market is right now. So, as we step back, we hope that there will be more plays, but I'm being very stingy from here on out, right? Like, the only thing I'm doing is free mints when fees are low. That's it. Outside of that, I'm probably fading everything until day 0 of runes, right? So let's quickly talk about this here. Yeah, it's really bad when the OCM team has to kind of distance themselves even further. But how can you distance yourself when Jason Fang usually is repping an OCM, as he is still right now, and he's an investor into the company? Pretty hard when an investor into a company is also running the community token for that entity. I don't think that's the right area that I would be in if I were Jason Fang. Like, why would you want to be at that intersection? It's a massive conflict of interest, right? And then how can you actually remove yourselves from a community initiative when you sit on the cap table of that actual primary entity? But again, this is where we're learning. This is where we're seeing could be really interesting here as well. Yeah, Crypto Gladiator, he's sharing one more airdrop farming on BTC. Share us whatever you got, man. We're looking at a lot of stuff. Always really exciting here, too. All right, let's shift gears and maybe talk about a few opportunities for you guys that we wanted to talk about real quick. First is we actually had an amazing demo from the XBTC bot team earlier today. If you weren't there, right, what was really cool is that this team has essentially built ChatGPT for minting tokens on the Ordinal blockchain. And they already support BRC20. They already support DMT. They already support Tap Protocol. And they'll be essentially be ready for runes on day 0, which is really exciting. And what was great is we actually saw the entire product. It was pretty early still. And, am I relying on them to be minting stuff on day 0? Absolutely not. Right? I'm not relying on this tool, but I have really strong conviction that I will be using AI tools very quickly for the vast majority of my future mints, especially on token meta protocols like BRC20, CBRC20, NAT, and DMT. I'd rather use an interface like this than, as you can probably go through the BRC20 experience. It's garbage. And this is really cool. And not only did we get a really cool demo, but the team was also really thankful enough to give us our own sign up list to be very early on this tool. So if you're interested, there's a activation link that you could just quickly sign up on. I'll drop it here in chat again. And if you already signed up from the first session, you actually now have access to the bot. So what you can also do is you could join their server. And look, like, we're so early. This Discord has less than 100 people, or at least it's showing me that it's less than 100 people right now, at the moment right now. So it's like very early. Hold on, let me join it to make sure. Yeah, there's nothing ruggy about this. Whenever it's so early, I want to make sure. I'm going to just go through this really quickly. What does it say? Please select Fox on the menu below. Okay, I'm going to add a Fox here. Verified successfully. Welcome. Okay, awesome. So we are all. Oh, shit. Yeah. I love how you guys all join in with me at the same time. Cool to see 30 of us kind of hop in real fast. So as you can see here, what's cool is that, we have access to this bot. For those of you who already signed up, you already have access and you could use their website, and it's tied to your the wallet address that you gave. And what's actually cool about this is that, you could start playing around with this tool and essentially get a lot more, at least, confidence on where the intersection of AI and crypto is going to be. This is actually going to be like one of my bigger elements here in this market, in my opinion, is realizing two things. Like, the crypto revolution is going to be massive, but the crypto revolution is actually going to be fueled by AI as well too. I want to sit at both of those intersections here so that this can be really large, really exciting, and hopefully really, really bullish as well.
So this is very early tool. We wanted to get this to you guys. I want to be very clear. Whatever wallet you add on here, make sure it's always a burner wallet. Any tool you want. This is not a testnet wallet. It's a real BTC wallet, right? You're going to be minting real tokens if you're using this, right? So it's any ordinal based wallet that you want, or BRC20 variable wallet that you want, starting with BC1P. And put that in there, and you'll get access to this. And here's the cool thing: there's no monthly fee. You're just paying fees on what you buy. And at least the way they had showed the fees to us, it was like 30 cents or 50 cents per trade, which, holy shit, in the world of ordinals is fucking nothing, right? So it could be really interesting if those fees remain there as well. I am going to tell you one thing. I'm going to use every fucking AI tool me here, right? I'll try to run through these, try to prep these, and make sure they come to you here as well. I'm going to try to become a super user of this because I'm telling you, I'm going to use this for BRC20, CBRC20, and more. Also, if this tool ends up being as good as I hope it will be, I'm going to yell at them to also support testnet. The cool thing is they can actually already do internal testnet. I want them to kick out external testnet so we can start using fucking MotoSwap and other testnet tools on this, right? Because think about this. This AI can actually improve your farming in the future, right? Depending on whatever the stupid requirements are of every sub campaign, right? It's like, hey, swap these ones, go buy these tokens, go, share this stuff here. You could actually do that all through this AI and maybe run it even as automated scripts, right? Where it's like a program running and doing it for you on behalf of these wallets, right? At 8 p.m., always buy and sell these things every single day. And it just creates a neutralized trade there as well. The other cool thing about the XBTC bot, based off what the guys have told us here as well, is that they already does work on Android mobile. It's not perfectly there, but they're looking to optimize for it. And they're expecting to have iOS here in the next couple of months ready to go too. The other cool thing that they're working on, and we might be one of their test partners early on, is they will be testing on how to actually use this bot within Discord directly. So we could actually do buys and sells through Discord. And there's actually a few ETH projects who've done this before, so it could absolutely work. And this is kind of where you'll see this kind of value here is that you communicate in AI. And the AI works just like ChatGPT. You don't have to be so formal with it. There might, of course, be edge cases, and that's why you still will want to learn how to read all of these functions. But that's what I'll work with you guys on here. So if you're down to mess around with AI, like if you like ChatGPT like interfaces, definitely sign up for this. We've got an exclusive code. We all will be able to get early entry onto this. And just maybe this might end up being a tool. But let me be very clear. We sure as hell are not using on day zero of having, right? You could mess around maybe just to test it, but you're not relying on this as your primary tool yet, right? And the real reason for that is that it's just too risky, right? We're going to be counting on Xverse. We're going to be counting on Luminex in most of the cases here, and maybe a few of the other like platform providers. But this you want to get ready for to use for everything else. And the fact that it already runs on BRC20 and a few other protocols like TAP, that's where the alpha is, right? I actually want to use this AI tool for those chains specifically. I might use it for runes too, but I'm going to have pretty good runes knowledge, and I'm not going to be like, I'm not a crazy day trader like what, some people might be. So I feel I could always enter runes in and out at the pace I want with the existing market tools. But I don't know if that's going to be the case for BRC20 and a few others. So as we use our tools like btctool.pro, right, ordpool.space, and a few others, this starts becoming a really powerful command center. And that's actually what you guys are all trying to build. Right now, for most of you, your command centers are like Discord, Twitter, and your given marketplace that you're using, right? Cool, but it needs to be way more than that, right? We now need to add Ord space in that. I'm sorry, Ord pool into that. We now need to add BTC tools into that. We now need to add maybe Orda charts as well if you need better charting tools. We might need to add some of these rune dexers now. You need to be constantly thinking what is going to be your command center structure. And for me, I'm hoping one of those tabs is an AI bot, right? Or an AI tool.
That is something I'm really hoping to be in my command center, and I will be the first. I will be an early power user to the first one who figures it out. I'm going to give this bot a try, but I want to be very clear. Use a burner wallet. Only put as much funds as you're willing to lose, right? The good thing is that you're not worried about rugs or anything like that as long as you can read transaction. But that is the one thing that this could be ruggy about. I have no reason that the team would do such a thing like this, but I want to let you know you need to be able to learn how to actions on any transaction that's happening, right? Because that's the only way you could lose items, right? There's no smart contracts here, so no one can steal stuff through like any draining. The only way you could technically get drained is that if you accept a transaction that has more signature requests than what you're actually selling, right? That's really the only way you're truly getting quote unquote taken away assets or drained in this case. But nothing else, is actually going to be impacting you. Like, Magic Eden, you're not worrying about any of this, right? On their launch pad. But same thing is that if you're going to give your wallet, right, and the wallet will have certain powers on the events and the signatures here, you need to be reading what you're getting in and out. And that also means very clearly any wallet you're using third party tools to buy and sell, you should always be rotating the liquid out of that at a pretty common rate. If not every day, if not every transaction, worst case once a week. Don't be caught, right, with holding a significant amount of assets in a burner wallet connected to a tool that buys or sells stuff. You just never want to be caught in that position. So that's the important thing. I think this tool is great. I'm going to be a super user, but I'm always going to give it to you straight on knowing the consequences on the other side and how we need to defend against that as well. So again, pretty cool. Definitely join in. Hopefully you guys will be able to use that tool here as well. Let's kind of wrap up with a few other like small little updates I want to give you guys here as well. So first is right. One of the things you want to do is you want to also start manually updating your extensions as you get closer to the halving. So the thing is, as I mentioned, is most of these wallets are actually going to require you to update your, most of these wallets are all going to have updates getting pushed as they start preparing for, of course, the Rune Protocol client and all the other third-party partners that they'll want to inject, right? X versus partnering with Luminex. So I'm sure there's elements in their wallet that will need to be updated to allow for that partnership to effectively work. So because of that, you want to expect almost all of these wallets to push some type of update the day before, right? So what I'd recommend is on Friday, everyone on Friday should be going into their settings and updating their wallets accordingly that you're on their latest wallet protocol that or wallet build that they've kicked out. That's like one thing. And then same thing, you want to know how to do this because on day of when these teams need to patch shit up, you'll want to make sure you're also on the latest wallet. Sometimes auto updates will have you covered, but in a lot of cases it won't because these extensions aren't built to be like utilized around like a singular tipping event. So this is also important to understand this. So I've dropped a link here on how to do it very simply with Xverse. It's just a couple of clicks within your Chrome. I'll show you a few more links for a few other partners out here as well that you can to. So just very small little tip there. The other thing we'll talk about as well tomorrow, but I want to just share with you now, is this idea of splitting UTXOs, right? Unspent transaction output. And you want to understand how the UTXO framework works, right? So in a very dumbed down scenario, if you're not familiar, if you're holding, say, one BTC in your wallet, the way that the actual ordinal blockchain works, right, is that you're actually that one BTC is represented in multiple chunks of unspent transaction outputs. So, like as an adult, you might say like, "Oh, I got $100." But the question really is that $100 bill? Is that two 20s, a 50 and a 10? Or are you some weird, stripper maniac who has $101 bills? Right? Like it could represent all of those. Same thing with an unspent transaction output. These are actually batched into different bills and dollar sizes here as well. So what you can see here is that when you can come here, you could actually connect a wallet
And what you actually want to do here, and there's an actual important thing to understand, is that say if you're holding $100 bill, yes, you have that $100 bill, but if you want to buy something for $5, you have to complete that transaction by giving all $100 to the other person and then wait to get your $95 in change. Cool, you still got the same output, but here's the problem. Because of Bitcoin blocks, that means that your entire, 1 BTC or whatever that $100 represents is locked in that transaction, and you now have to wait till that block clears for that transaction to be finalized and for you to get your change back. And what that means is that you then lose opportunity cost because it means that you can't do any more transactions in that block. So ideally, what you'd want to do is you would want to break up your $100 into smaller bills beforehand so that A, not only can you send the right amount in the UTXO to a specific project that you're buying and or selling, but the other thing that I think is also really important is recognizing that when you drop it down, what's also great is that when you do and get it to those optimal sizes, you could then do multiple transactions at the same time. The other thing that you also need to split sometimes is splitting out quote unquote rare sats. It's kind of stupid, but some of these wallets view like a common palindrome as a rare sat. I promise you it's not that rare. That should not be the thing that's holding up your transaction. But this is also why you want to split UTXOs. So some of you are asking, how much should you be splitting UTXOs? Like how much sat should go into each bundle? So I'm actually going to do some math and show you some scenarios there here as well. And what you want to recognize is that, there's a few different estimates here at the moment right now. So Shiroi has actually showed this to you guys here. What are the initial estimates in regard to the cost when you're looking at the fees and how much a rune mint is going to cost? So again, what you can see here, right, is that at 100 sats per virtual byte, a single rune capture is going to cost 17,100 sats. Okay, what does that mean here as well? Let's just do the simple math here. Satoshis to US dollars. What is that? Okay, we'll go to Kraken's got a good converter here. So we put this here, 17,100. What it means is that in this kind of scenario, when we're looking at what Shiroi has noted, right, at 17,100 sats, this is at 100 sat fee, it will cost you $10 per rune that you're going to be minting, right? But realistically, we're expecting the market to be probably around 1,000 sats in that first block. So what that then means, right, realistically, based off these numbers, it'd be 171,000. So let's add another zero. This means every rune that you're trying to mint or every batch of rune you're trying to mint in that collection will cost you $100, right, to be able to claim. So that's kind of another important thing you have to understand, right, is that these fees are going to get really high, right? And that's at 1,000 sats. There's some who believe 2,000, 3,000 sats. But let's just kind of keep this very clean. 1,000 sats, $100. 100 sats, $10. You kind of have a 10-to-1 ratio there. Kind of helps there with a lot of the calculations here as well. And that's assuming what current, Bitcoin price is. Of course, this price can go up as Bitcoin goes up. As Bitcoin goes up, right, then the price of each sat and what it's worth will then increase the fees. So this is kind of a good number right now for what we're looking at. So essentially, right, what you want to then be able to do, thinking about what's the right amount of UTXOs, it requires you to then start thinking through what is the expected sat fee that you want to be able to enter in. So for me, right, what I'm trying to do is I'm realizing quickly is that I'm expecting this to be around 2,000 sats or higher. So what I've been doing still at this point, right, is when we go back to Luminex here at the moment right now, I'm still recommending around 500,000 sats per UTXO, right? Like that still makes the most sense in this kind of scenario for these mints because that essentially protects me to a 2,500 sat fee to get max mints in that kind of scenario, right? So that's kind of a way that you could be.
But if you don't plan to be optimizing for day zero kind of launches, you don't have to break them up into those kind of large chunks. You could get away with slightly smaller chunks if you want. But it's important to understand, right, is that if you do break it down into more smaller chunks, the more UTXOs needed, right, in the transaction, the larger the cost is going to be of the transaction fee. Usually this is fairly small though, but again, in a blown up SAT fee world, it gets really crazy. So this is why a lot of people are optimizing their UTXOs is that they want to be able to batch mint as many as they can into a single event so that they don't have to worry about the passback. Because here's the truth, right? When it comes to ordinals, when it comes to specifically runes, what you get in one block versus the next block is going to be an order of magnitude delta of 2x, 5x on that trade potentially, right? Based off how much we know meme coins move, right? Just imagine in your head, you get into a meme coin right at the start when it launches, or you get into a meme coin 15 minutes later. You know what the price impact could be in 15 minutes. You know what the market cap impact can be in those 15 minutes. That's also like a really important thing to understand. But the other thing to understand is look at how BRC 20 mints happen. What do I mean by that? Like, let me go show you how BTC tool looks like really quickly. I might not show because actually, maybe BRC might have come back because the fees went back down. Yeah, it did come back a little bit. Definitely not as bullish as it was last week. But you can see here what's also really interesting is that you see a lot of mints, right? So you see Auto was minted 375 times in the last 5 blocks. But what you end up seeing is whales who are batch minting it. So it's only 11 wallets bought 375. That's 35 per wallet, right? That's crazy. That's actually insane, right? That's what these wallets are. And that's what a lot of people are betting on what they want to do for their rune strategy as well on day zero. Get as many of those batch mints in that block when it becomes available. And specifically, I think there's really only one meta. I mean, I think like the simple strategy right now when it comes to day zero halving, in my opinion, is optimizing UTXOs for whatever Rune 1 mint will be. That is the only mint I would actually be chasing right now with conviction on day zero. And what I mean by that is that's not Casey's uncommon ground. That's not what I'm talking about. Casey's uncommon ground, if it remains in its current flow as a hard-coded token, right, that remains for unlimited supply for 4 years, I don't care about that token outside of maybe early provenance, so I'm not really racing towards that. What I am racing towards is whoever wins ticker symbol number 1 and is officially rune number 1. So I'm looking at who's winning out that block, where that miner gets that ticker, and how fast they deploy. So the truth is that you're actually not even deploying in block, right? You're deploying at earliest block 2, but that assumes a team to win a ticker symbol, have a supply, and open it immediately into the next block. I don't know if that's going to be the case, right? But it would have to move relatively quickly because we only have 10 to 15 minutes between each of these blocks kind of moving. And knowing our luck, we might end up getting like some stupidly long first block that pushes fees to something like exorbitantly high that it all makes us wonder whether or not this is even worth doing. But the real reason here and the real reason why I still think there's opportunities for us is because we know the meta is whatever is the first rune will moon, right? Whatever has that provenance there should moon. And more importantly, the reason why it should also moon, that person paid a shit ton of money for it, right? That means they have real treasury behind this. They can hopefully make it run. All we have to pray for is that it's a good one, right? A good name that it can allow it to run. The only other thing I'm looking at on day zero is looking at good names and good tokens and good teams and seeing who could sprint. So I will be probably dropping like 1 or 2 or 3, but I'm kind of like honestly sleeping through the rest. I really am, like on a lot of ways, because I don't feel that there's going to be a massive edge right now in that day zero and that first block. What I'm much more interested in seeing is the market form and where that meta is beyond. So I'm definitely going to go after Rune 1, right? And I'm definitely going to put in a decent amount of chunk of fees into that on whatever the market is doing. But outside of that, it's really just picking the names and the teams and the narratives that rally in the market to get a few kind of small bets. And that's about it. But this is the reason why I want to make sure that you are looking at these tools and you're aware of that meta. You might have the willingness and conviction to bet more, and there's a few. Like I was talking to Spud Toshi earlier, he's looking to probably do a little bit more. And don't get me wrong, we're also going to be active here, and we'll help put together a group of team of people who want to spend at 1,000 sat. Like we'll call it like the 1,000 sat club here, right? And it's just this idea that you're willing to make those plays. It's a little bit higher, right? You're willing to dollars per gas. I mean, remember, $100 in gas is nothing than what other side gas was, right? If you remember other side gas, that's what I just want to let you know of the delta of peak euphoria. Remember, other side gas was what, $10,000 per person, right? Oh, well, yeah, like not that much. I remember it was like $4,000 per person, right? It was 2 ETH in gas, and I think ETH was around like 2,100 at that time, something like that, right? So yeah, like 5,000 maybe, right? Was lost in gas per user. I know this was peak, like, well, I don't want to say peak. It was like the end of the bull market. That was the signal the bull market died. All liquidity got taken out there. It was nuts. This was on the other side mint from Bored Ape, right? Because they didn't. It was an open mint, so they made everyone gas. It was nuts, right? So people paid. The mint was 2 ETH was the actual mint cost, I think, and you paid another 2 ETH in fees, something like that, or the mint cost was 1 ETH, and it's like, honestly, I'm trying to like burn that out of my mind, because just to let you know, we spent $100 million gas as a community, $130 million on it, like no, like just disappeared. It was ridiculous, right? So just know that degens have that tolerance, right? If that is the tolerance, holy shit, what's going to happen on ordinals, right? I don't think it's ever going to get close to those numbers, but $100 doesn't mean shit to grab a whole bunch of rune mints, right? Like that's actually going to be a decent size for a lot of people to do. And especially with the UTXO model, it makes these transactions so much cheaper that even when gas fees do go up to 1,000, it's 100. That's not an insane number when you're trying to get 1/20,000th of a bag of a token, right? So like, let's assume someone does a 21 million token, right? So we'll do this, right? 21 million token, right? And essentially, a 21 million token, and each time you could claim 1,000, right? So essentially, when you divide that by 1,000, 21,000 unique claims on that. So let's just stick with that, like if these were the numbers, right? So if we expand on this, right, then what we want to do is we want to take this 21,000 and let's say 21,000 times, let's say 100, right, for now, of what the gas fees. Right, what you're looking at here is that this would only be 2.1 million in gas to be able to get all of that stuff and access there. That's not that much money. Like, it really isn't. $2.1 million at 1,000 sat fees to claim Rune 1 if it was broken down in those numbers is not. Again, I don't think these are going to be the numbers. They'll probably end up being a 21 billion supply and then being able to claim like 1,000 on it, which would then mean, right, a way larger number here at this point of fees going in. So that's kind of why we want to keep a really close eye here as well. Yep, Shepard, we'll go live on day 0 on block 840,000. We'll be here with you. I mean, I'll be here no matter what. I just hope it doesn't go any earlier, so I'm gonna have to wake up at like 4 a.m. But whatever, I can do it. But we'll definitely do that, and we'll talk through it, and we'll create like a few people who want to make some larger plays. I'm setting aside some degen money here. Like I say, of my day 0 capital on like block 840,000, I expect 80% of it to go to Rune 1, whatever Rune 1 is. That's my current strategy, and 20% will just be me trying to feel something on a few things here and there, just testing out where the market's going to go. That's currently my philosophy here. But we'll talk more about this. I just wanted to share this a little bit in detail because I think a lot of people are still trying to figure out what the upside is going to be on day zero. And I don't think you like sleep through it all, right? I even gave that as the incorrect feedback earlier. It's just you're sleeping through almost all of it except Rune 1. That's really it. Like, that's the only thing that I'm truly awake for. Everything else is then up to your appetite, in my opinion. And that's probably like more of a, it's a much more of a safer strategy. But, depending on your ape size of how much you want to go on to Rune 1, that's what you're betting on. But that seems to have probably the most conviction here and probably where this could rally here as well. So hopefully you guys can see kind of the opportunities that are coming in this market. I think essentially from that, if you are looking for liquidity on your PFPs, right? Like, try to list them in the right way you can to hopefully move very quickly. I think again, liquidity will dry up as soon as the SAT fee stays like continually above 100. I mean, I'll be very honest. I'm actually so surprised that fees are currently at only like 30, right? Like, I was actually blown away that when we started this call, those were the fees. It's picking up a little bit here, right? 40, 37, now 49. We'll see how long it is. It looks like it is a longer block here a little bit. It's been 30 minutes here. We'll see how long this does take. But what you are seeing is that over the next few hours, it's going to maintain around 100, around 30 sats, probably, if not lower. Great time to optimize your UTXOs, right? Great time to kind of get here in this position on how you want to be ready for this market. And at a minimum, just go through your wallets and see how your UTXOs are built. If you see like your chunk of capital is only in 2 UTXOs, you are in a very bad shape. So make sure you split them up and understand it. If you don't know what UTXOs are here because you weren't listening earlier, no worries. We'll just send you reading material. Here is your homework, and you can read this. And this will show you what the Bitcoin So just realize you want to know the perfect size, but this also just shows you these are the elements that a lot of users are going to be caught up on outside. So have this stuff optimized on your behalf here too. The last thing I'll share, we're almost at an hour, so I don't want to way too much into this, but I'm going to show you some, a couple of tools that I think are really relevant here as we kind of go through. And this is one of my first favorite tools here that I'm going to show here as well. Here is L2 Watch. Save this site. This is awesome. This is all the L2s on Bitcoin as well. I showed you the House of Chimera, which is also great. I think this L2 Watch is even better here as well. It's giving you all the tokens, all the links, everywhere they're going, all the websites, all the people to follow, and where their test nets or where their explorers may be, which is great. You also have an understanding of who they've been fundraised by, right? And we're going to talk about tier one VCs, where these guys kind of land, how much they've raised as well. But the other nice little benefit here is when you scroll all the way down, there's this nice little thing. I recommend it to all of you. They've created an amazing Twitter list here. It's a Twitter list that unfortunately I can't see at the moment right now with my fake account or my incognito mode account. But when you see that, the cool thing is that they have all these companies' Twitters right there in a feed. Follow that list and probably start following a lot of these people here as well. This is where you want to get ready, right? What are we trying to prep you? It's not about prepping just for runes. Runes is awesome. It's going to be great. There's going to be interesting stuff. But it is prepping for all of these opportunities that may be coming beyond this, right? And this is kind of where you want to kind of see the long-term vision here. Remember, MotoSwap is not an L2. MotoSwap is a swap protocol built on BRC20, on CBRC20, right? So they won't be listed on here, right? On this. That's the protocols versus L2s are two different things. So we want to make sure we understand. We do need a protocol list though, right? And that protocol list would have services like a MotoSwap, a Saturn, and a few other of these tooling infrastructures out there. So this is just your L2s. But the reason you want to look at L2s here is the L2s are going to be potentially the airdrop potential of what we've seen with guys like Starknet and Arbitrum. right? Like if you actually think about the long term stuff you want to be farming, it's you're getting a repeat. Someone just gave you an insane repeat and said, "Hey, did you fuck up and not farm Arbitrum or not farm Starknet and you missed out on six figures?" And like I said, and shout out, there's a few amazing farmers in our community, like Burger Bucks and a few others. Like you could have easily made it six figures doing basic farming on those platforms. I promise you, you're going to be able to have that same opportunity again here. Again, like if you do this for the next 12 months, just pure farming, you're going to have a huge opportunity and huge upside on where all these protocols unlock their value. And the truth is that the L2s are probably going to have way more upside because those are going to be the ones that are going to end up being fueled by way larger market caps, right? So that's kind of why we want to look at this L2 breakdown of what's happening on Bitcoin. But at the same time, we want to follow all the other protocols. We want to know where meta protocols are launching, when swap protocols are launching, when bridge protocols are launching, when lending protocols are launching, right? When vesting protocols are launching, because those are all going to be meaningful and will also have their own either rune or tap or similar like token protocol assigned to it. So what is our goal right now? Why are you actually doing Moto Swap? In my opinion, you're doing Moto Swap for two reasons, right? One, it's upside to a swap protocol that will be hopefully meaningful on BTC. And secondly, you're doing it because it is also a access point into CBRC20, a potentially more smarter, intelligent token protocol, and the upgrade essentially, or hopefully a level up from BRC20. You are trying to get early bets to either protocols or L2 chains. And in MotoSwap, you're actually getting early access to two protocols. CBRC20 as a liquid meta protocol and MotoSwap as a swap protocol. That's why it's a killer. And then the third little bonus you can say on top of all of this is the fact that it's free. It's testnet, baby. God damn, I know it sucks to stop and go on it. It's kind of hard to build the progress here. But I'm telling you, if you build that muscle to get through this shit now, all of these farming campaigns are going to get a lot easier, right? You have to kind of like get through the fucking mud of this shit right now. And that's what we are. It is the mud. Like we're on the bottom of this shit, going through sludge. It's going to be bad. User experience is going to suck. All of this shit is going to be hard at certain times. But the real alpha, right? The real alpha is that 99% of other people won't do it. And because you're going to do it and you have better line of sight on how protocol value will be constructed on BTC, you are putting yourself in another new position of a gen wealth return, right? And I think that's going to be really important. Yeah, Soldier asks, hey, I see that they wallet. Honestly, what I would do is I do multiple wallets with at least 100, like at least get 5 wallets up to 100, and then you have the choice. Either max out those 5 wallets or start another 5 wallets again, right? It's up to you on that front on what you want to do. I think, in my opinion, is that I'd probably get them all around like 130 to 140 points minimum, because everyone's going to stop at around 100 or 120. So just clear that level, right? It's just like one slight click up. So like somewhere in that 130 range, and I think you're generally good. And then you could either choose to farm continually on those wallets or farm new wallets. And then here's the beauty is when you click that, what you should be noting in your management or your spreadsheet here, right, is that you should note when you click these is that you are now able to rotate off this if a better opportunity comes. And that's how you become a farmer. And that's the beauty of this, right? Is that once you clear that 130, it's now opportunity cost. So as soon as you see another Bitcoin L2 infrastructure or protocol go out that you have more conviction on, you could feel confident rotating your time to season up those new potential projects because you've at least hit your bare minimal and threshold at this number. Or you might get more bullish on CBR, like, fuck it, I'm going to go for max return. But here's the honest truth. Traditionally, it has always been more economically profitable to do more wallets hitting the base threshold than it has been focusing on a few concentrated wallets historically. And that's especially been true for L2 plays. Maybe on protocol plays, it might be better to go up leaderboards because leaderboards might give you more than value in those reward structures. So you want to kind of do it case by case. But at a moment, what I would really tell you is if they publicly told everyone 100, you should push your numbers to 130 to 135. And then at that point, you could then choose, do I keep doing this on these 5 wallets, or do I add more wallets, or fuck it, I want a new opportunity that's ready to farm. And that's the cool thing, is that you should always have a farm queue being built up. And that's what we're trying to get you. We're really early. There's a few other things you could farm. There's Bounce Bit. We're going to share a little bit about that here tomorrow. We're going to talk about a few others, but Merlin's pretty much done. B squared is pretty much done. So we're kind of in this phase to kind of get ready. Ordinal Hive is not a token. I want to be very clear. That's a tool. That's not a protocol or anything like that. Ordinal Hive is that you're just kind of betting on ordinal tools may be valuable and maybe getting that list, or those tools are beneficial. I'd put that in kind of a tier 2, tier 3 category for now, right? But you're not expecting to get real rewards. They have noted there are points coming into their system, so there might be rewards there too. But I just don't think it's bullish yet until the tool gets way stronger. And the real reason I say this, and it's really hard for tools to build sustainable tools, and we've seen that on ETH. There have been a few outliers, right? Unibot, BananaBot, and a few others that have kind of done it. But traditionally, tooling is not where I want tokens. Tooling is I want short-term NFTs that I can then flip, or tools that help me generate more cash upside through my ordinal or digital assets here as well. So that's kind of how I look at that, but hopefully it could be meaningful. Like I said, we're going to continue giving you opportunities, but I don't want you to think like everything we share with you is gold. I think MotoSwap is bullish because it hits 2 protocol layers, right? And it's free. Fucking easiest win you can get. I mean, it's so free that, we've created a faucet just for you guys, right? To have it. Like, the best faucet in Ordinals right now is in this server, right? We're the only faucet that's going to give you points and you don't have to do anything, right? Which is kind of awesome. So you always have that opportunity, and we're trying to remove the layers of friction to get you to think beyond being a farmer, right? And that's kind of why you want to realize this, right? Is like beyond being a farmer, what you really are trying to do is you're trying to be like an architect, a actual belief, right? An absolute belief that this infrastructure layer on Bitcoin is going to get bigger, and me as an individual with my wallets, right, are going to be getting a bunch of token equity into all of this future that's coming, right? Which I think is really amazing. And yeah, exactly, Inkchef. There's actually value. You're learning how a swap protocol works. How many of you actually ever put money into an LP before, right? Probably very few of you have actually done that process. So getting to actually go through some of these actions is actually really cool, right? And being able to be a little bit more familiar with. I wish the UI and the music weren't as crazy as they were on Moto. I was joking with Wild West Crypto earlier. It's like, but he was like, my eyes burn, right? And I was like, yeah, mine too. But again, at least it's actually to be very honest, outside of some of the campaigns going on and off and the some of the start stop feeling, it's actually a really good UI UX experience here, right? For a traditional early beta test. Right? You could actually click on everything. The buttons kind of make sense, right? It's actually surprisingly solid in that way, right? And yes, it is nice to add LP without any permanent loss. It is fun gassing up on this stuff and farming as well with that too. So that's kind of why we wanted to introduce it to you guys as well, because it's there. No, there's nothing wrong with 80 synth. I actually love 80 synth. I just don't want to listen to 80s synth when I'm farming. I really don't. It's not the vibe that I want directly there. But again, that's the cool thing. You turn it on and off. It's more of the UI coloring. I would definitely love it to be more of a muted palette and easier concept. But it's got its vibe, which is cool. That's what it needs, and that's what it scales. But I want to show you all these tools because I want you to start looking. I'm sending you these L2 infrastructure guide. This is already someone who's playing out and identifying the entire roadmap for you of what's happening. I mean, holy shit! Some of these I actually hadn't heard of before, which is awesome. Like that's what I love when I see a good list. I'm like, fuck, I need to go find these people. And here's the best part: they have a whole category, what stage they are, all the pre-test nets, all the guys who are already in test nets. What are they doing on test net? What can we interact with? This like it's already color coordinated for you. You can actually be way more active here as well. TPS means transactions per second, right? It's essentially the measurement of how many transactions that any blockchain can complete in a given amount of time, right? So TPS stands for that here as well. All right, everyone. I'm actually going to let you all go. We're here well over an hour. Stop here at the hour mark. So, guys, I hope that you could kind of realize that, the opportunity of Bitcoin is right in front of you. Every single day, there's going to be more and more opportunity. And you building these actions every single day, whether it be learning how to farm on something simple like MotoSwap, right? Or it's you learning how to be ready for pre-rune plays, or it's you being ready to maybe do a long-term, post rune token or protocol play. Whatever it may be, I hope you find ways to keep stacking sat. And that's also the other important thing here in this server at Ronin. If you meaningfully show to us that you found some way of stacking sats through this community and helped other people stack sats, you will get a Ronin. That's it. That's how this entire thing works. There's nothing else. I don't need you to push tweets out on anything yet. I don't need you to do any bullshit of 18 actions. The smallest actions we've had here have been simple clicks where you get to choose your mastery and answer a 3-minute survey. Like, my goodness, this shit is simple as fuck to do. Because guess what? All the hard actions are going to be the farm projects that we're going to start bringing to you here as well, right? You are building a player profile, which is also pretty cool. And that player profile will have impact in the future. And I can't wait to show you this here as well, too, because you'll all then be able to have your ability to build this world. And that's kind of the thing. Exactly, Texas. It's we're farmers by day, samurais at night, right? And it is that feeling here because farming is probably one of the greatest opportunities we have ever when it comes to this Bitcoin infrastructure. I promise you, I would not be telling you this on ETH. I wouldn't be telling you this on 99% of chains. Really, it is just honestly Bitcoin and Blast. That's it. Those are the only two things that actually have really interesting farming opportunities. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean those are the only chains. Like if you're shitcoins, like fuck, go back to Sol. Like Sol is the killer on that shit, right? Which is nuts. But what we're seeing is that we're no longer, and this is actually the important thing here, we're no longer like a one chain world. Like this is actually the clearest sign we finally have gotten, right? Everything is up for grabs, right? ETH market share is up for grabs, L2 market share is up for grab, Sol is up for grabs, right? Like all of this stuff, no one's got an edge anymore to say we control the market. And I fucking love that because it means we're going to get better competition and better launches from a lot of different places. So at least here in this community, right, expect us to be giving you at least much more insights on everything that, is coming on the BTC infrastructure and technology side to get you that upside, right? If you want to play meme coins, like we'll always help you to understand the Rune protocol, right? But try to find other communities that are like pure meme degen shit, right? To be very honest, that's not going to be us, right? We want to be very clear on that. Doesn't mean that we won't share, give you insights. We're going to tell you what Rune protocols we're going to be making plays on as well. But dude, fuck, like I'd be making plays on base. I'd be making plays on bets on Shay. I'd be making bets on Sol. I'd be fucking making bets on Blur. Yeah, you could even be farming Exterio, even though that fucking Exterio campaign is the most fucking garbage thing ever. I hope you're doing Paleo as well and just like responding in the dumbest answers ever possible. Like, I really fucking hate how ETH has turned all these things into actions, right? So what I'm trying to do is that if there's any grind actions we're trying to do, I'm hoping it's grind actions that are getting you direct yield on one of these projects and letting you understand Bitcoin infrastructure. The problem I have with Paleo, Exterio, and they're not the only ones, Block did this and a handful, their farming campaigns improve your exposure in no way, right? Like it's not helping you understand the ecosystem better. It's not helping you be a better Ethereum user. All it is, it's stealing time from you to trick traders into believing there's actual value here, right? And like it's hilarious because like Exterio has like fucking what, like 5 projects out. No, they're all like either reskins from a company called Fun Plus, or it's a game that probably won't ship for 3 years and we won't actually see anything of it. That is the state of ETH right now, because that's one of the most hyped tokens coming out, and it has almost no substance, right? And that's kind of the crazy thing here as well. This market is going to need to mature on where that portfolio of where your actions are going to be. And it's not going to be these lame actions that you're seeing on ETH moving forward. I think that shit's going to get chopped out. Don't get me wrong, I'd farm the fuck out of Exteria, though, if you have the time. Like, I honestly would. As much as I'm telling you how shitty it is, I'm still going to tell you it's going to print. Because that's how dumb this market is. Because the market just knows one thing about Exterio: Binance. Like, it's not even like anyone gives a fuck about Exterio, right? No one gives a fuck about their art assets. No one gives a fuck about their products and games. It is a bet on Binance, right? And it's a bet on that, oh, these guys have enough capital, enough mind share that this will be something that prints, right? Like, you see these numbers like, oh, $5 billion stake to Exterio on BNB. These are just fucking farmers rotating that money for the same thing. There's no actual intrinsic value, but it's giving confidence to the market. And when it's giving confidence to the market, it's going to boom. And also, I say this all at the same time very directly to let you know, I stupidly own a bunch of Incarna still, right? So it's not like I'm just like hitting on this because I fucking hate the project or anything like that. It's not like that. I hope they succeed, but I just want you to understand the delta between ETH and like a lot of these opportunities. ETH is still just playing this game of, hey, find the right signals and bet on it and then dump out of it as fast as you can, right? And because of that, I hope that you could take a slightly different philosophy coming here to Ordinals. And this is why I want to focus a lot on infrastructure plays, because I'm trying to trick you guys into thinking long term in 6-month, 12-month relationships with entities. I'm not trying to trick you into 1-week relationships to flip the Ordinal asset. Don't get me wrong, I'll share some fucking stupid Ordinal assets and stuff like that, and airdrops and whitelist that will come. But what I care about is not the bag you make off Ordinal flips or even rune flips, or meme coin rune flips. I care about the bag you capture on real protocols and real L2s. If you get that, that's a fucking real bag. And more importantly, right, what's also even bullish about that is that it's also capital that will come in a large slug in a very unexpected but positive scenario. That's what you also want as you are building your stack in the future. So you're building this compounding stack, hopefully with some of this farming. And again, when we say farming, we also are going to introduce you guys to investment opportunities later. It won't be directly through us because as an entity, we cannot share that. But through a third-party entity, we will give you opportunities to enter Bitcoin pre-sales in the near future, right? And the idea is that it's just finding more ways for you to stack sats. That's all we're going to try figuring out. As these come in, we'll hand them to you. Nothing is guaranteed, but hopefully you could find opportunities to build conviction on. Same thing, I don't want to overtly shill anything. I will give you my logic on something, right? Like, I've talked about I might get an Odyssey ape from the Rune Terminal team because I just want exposure to a Rune launchpad. Makes sense. Small enough supply, probably enough upside there, right? That's my logic. Don't believe like, oh, fuck, I need to go ape that shit. Don't believe that at all. The only thing I can actually tell you that I might have given on is whatever the fuck Rune 1 is. That's the only thing I'm aping. Rune 1 on block 840,000. That's what I'm trying to find, right? In those first few blocks, who wins that ticker and how fast do they deploy? And you could actually expand that into 2 things. Expand that to who actually gets Rune 1 as a ticker symbol and who actually deploys the fastest rune first as well, too. That would be the other thesis that you'd want to hold, because there's a chance whoever wins Rune 1 might need to take 10 blocks to get it ready to actually deploy and claim. While there might be someone who wins like Rune 28, but they actually have it ready to go in the next block or the block after as a simple claim site, right? And getting it indexed correctly as well, and on all the on all the indexers and marketplaces here as well. So, and exchanges as well. So that's the other thing you want to look at, is that I'll always give you the reasoning for it. But remember, use your own mind. You all are fucking smart people. If you're already here in crypto this early, even though you might be doubting yourself that some of this information might be going over your head, give yourself credit that you're in the fucking room right now. You're in the fucking room and actually thinking through this strategy. You might not be able to deploy stuff as fast as you want, but all you care about is you're increasing your rate of growth, right? One of my favorite comedy shows is named after a really interesting concept of arrested development, right? And this is the thing I think a lot of people fail in lives. They actually run into arrested development, meaning they stop growing, right? They stop developing. They stop creating new ideas and pushing through in new ways. And especially in crypto, people suffer from arrested development. They just want the easiest, lamest, simplest shit here, right? And I that's not what you want. You want to go through this grind. So when you hear like fuck Moto's down, what you should also hear opportunity there, because fuck knows the person who ran into that 3 times is already left, but you're still there, right? And because it is a swap protocol and potentially has entry into CBRC 20, it might be worth the wait, the game, the play here as well, to kind of get it to that level, right? And that's what I want you guys to understand, right? Is I want you to understand that you actually have control of your destiny here more so than anything else. And yes, go after ordinal plays. I hope you minted ordinal that somehow gets you to 10, BTC somehow in the future. I hope these still exist somehow. But what I am 100% confident on is that if you get exposure to Bitcoin protocols and L2 blockchains on their early day ones when they come out, you are going to fucking stack sats. You're going to do it in a clean way. You're going to do it in a healthy way. And you're going to do it in a compounding way. Because it's not just how much of the airdrop you're going to get, right? What you also are going to be thinking about is, do you hold those assets post airdrop to let it run? And that's where you could really start considering real conversations of Gen Wealth. This is the only Gen Wealth play that I believe that exists in this market that's real. It is getting access to all these protocols, whatever way you can, as a farmer, as an investor, or as a trader. There will be ordinal assets for some of these protocols that we'll want to keep an eye out as well too. So definitely stay tuned to it. Lots of other things are going to be there. We're hopefully going to see a lot of bullish elements that come to this market. But I sincerely hope you guys actually recognize the privileged position you are in as a collective. You can absolutely get onto day one of every Bitcoin L2 infrastructure in the future. That is insane. That is a market cap that is going to 25 to 50. Hopefully it will all work. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of these last things where people are going to come over to ordinals for as kind of last hurrahs. Don't get me wrong. Hopefully some of them will make it, right? Usually a new shift. I mean, if you remember Hardo was actually a fairly, like, I don't want to say unsuccessful, but let's not say a star artist on ETH, right? Hardo then brought his stuff very early to ordinals, and now Hardo's looked at one of the top artists potentially in that ordinals market. So you can see some of these changes, but again, if they're not ordinal native, I'm still fading a lot of this stuff. I hope you guys continue to bet on ordinal native people, right? Ordinal native people are so important to be backing here, and I hope you find people who are actually helping encourage you guys to grow. Ordinal native isn't just the idea of like, hey, I'm going to give you some fees, I'm going to give you some upside, we'll see where it goes. It needs to be more than that. Yeah, there's Hado ETH. He's well known on the ETH side as well. I think he kind of lost a little steam because of Operation Sin. That was supposed to be like their big project from the llama guy, whatever the fuck his name. I already NFT. Jeez, like I'm almost like dumping all ETH knowledge out of my head, so sometimes I do struggle to remember all these different people. But what you are seeing here, right, is that there is a ton of upside out here. I think Hato's doing right. What's that new project he's doing? Lucid, right? It actually looks cool. I just think it's the wrong timing, right? I mean, how many more anime projects do we want to see? It almost looks very much like honestly like Ink. Surprisingly, I'm not sure why they chose that. Right, Ink went orange, white, black essentially here. I don't feel that was smart on their end. It's a different profile, different angle, etc. here as well too. So I'm just not sure why they're trying to play that game. So Lucid just has never looked strong to me on that front because it didn't feel original and it didn't feel like I honestly I'll be honest, I don't want any more fucking anime. I don't. Like I don't want any more anime art. I have enough fucking anime art for the rest of my life. So I'm struggling to see where they're going to sustain and where they're going to really pull into this market here as well. Right? And that's the thing. I think the art actually looks good on Lucid though. But I just don't want it, right? So and I don't want something that doesn't feel original, right? Like why do I actually like Ronin? And and one day I'll actually tell everyone about it. It's just like Ronin's got on-chain clans. Ronin's got interesting use of dynamic art on chain with your backgrounds. Like Ronin's got simplistic rarity, but also true provenance and children within the disciple assets and 3 lineages as well. Right? We've targeted specific blocks. We've targeted cursed inscriptions. You could actually see the fact that the Cenotaph of Sato existed over 300 days ago, so that's kind of another thing. We're talking about Hato. We were just talking about Lucid here on this front. On this, I have nothing against Hato as a person. I just don't know if Lucid brings any excitement to me when I see it with my ordinal lens. With my ordinal lens, like it just kind of felt a little bit flat. So that's just my look, my take. I hope you guys find it. I'm definitely not minting a lot of stuff here except Ordzar Pass and Thank You X. Like those would be the only things if I had. I don't have whitelist to either of those, but if I did, those would be the only things that I would be minting here right now at the moment. So again, be careful. A lot of people are gonna just start putting, well, here's the good thing. I want to give you one good because holy shit, I told you I was going to leave 21 minutes ago. But if you know me, I usually struggle at this shit. But the last thing I will say is that, what's going to be awesome? Is that, oh my God, the fees that are going to come in a post halving world, right? What's going to be amazing is you're going to see a bunch of free mints, right? Because, like, why wouldn't it be a free mint, right? Like, if sats are like $250 and I have to pay $30 in gas fee to claim it, like you're gonna see super, super low mints here, right? And I think that's a really important thing in this market. So I think that's gonna be also an accumulation here. But yeah, if you have Ordzar minted, if you are on first come first there, get ready. Ordzar is a win, especially because it's a 2100 supply, right? Which is also a really bullish thing here as well. The other thing we should talk about later, and honestly, I've been missing it quite a bit. I love what Toad Wolf's done. Toad Wolf's got a much cooler one-of-one Pepe here in the chat. But the other thing I did want to note, what was I going to share here? Oh, I just lost my train of thought. I'll probably get it back afterwards. I'll share it. But again, there are going to be mints that are coming out. There are going to be launch pads that are going to come out. Ordzar is going to be one that you also want to keep an eye on here. Now, don't worry. That was on me. So just keep an eye out. But I do want you guys to realize that as these free mints come out and these low cost mints come out, take advantage of that. That is probably a great way to start seasoning up wallets over the next few weeks as well, as people kind of come in. But also, I think you're going to see a lot of mints. So, like, I've been talking to a lot of artists and devs that are coming out who've already either inscribed their collections or getting ready to inscribe their collection. And and the truth is, most of them are like looking to mint for like sub $100, which is awesome, or sub $50, right? Like one guy I was talking to, he's like, dude, if gas fees are whatever gas fees are to claim the asset, I'm just gonna take $100, subtract it. So he was like telling me like, even if it's like $90 in gas, then I'll make the mint $10, right? If it's $50 in gas, I'll make the mint cost $50, right? But he's looking at like max mints of $100, which I think is awesome, right? Like, or even max mints of like $50, right? Whatever it may be, something in that range. I think you're going to see a lot of builders come with that kind of philosophy. So this could be a great time in this post rune world, as ordinals will need to figure out how to grab that attention back. And free is a great way to grab that attention back, or low price. So we're going to see a few. We're going to help kind of pick and show and introduce you guys to a few projects here as well. And our goal is, right, it's more about access than like whitelist right now. And the reason I say that is that access is more about getting in the communities early. I want you to organically actually participate in the communities that you like. And we'll then work really hard to get you guys more upside as you participate as well. And shout out to a lot of you. It's awesome. Like even when we just today, when we jumped over to um the XBTC bot AI, like 80% of that chat was us right when we came in, right? Which is awesome. So I hope that we can kind of keep that kind of philosophy here. We'll kind of do these live events and other different elements here too. Yeah, Shiroi, probably the best UTXO splitting tool is still Luminex. I think Luminex is the best. Right, so I definitely would recommend using that here as well. I'll just drop the link again on Luminex. There are a few other places to do it, but Luminex was really clear. When you connect your wallet, it'll then show you how many UTXOs are in it, and then you could break down and view how many and what those sizes are, and then you could break them up a little bit more. It is lacking a little bit of a slight customized option where it would have been nice to be able to break up everything to the exact fee you want. So we'll share a couple more tools tomorrow here as well on this front. Thankfully, my partner is amazing. She definitely lets me do a lot of work because that's the other nice thing is that I've also shifted my schedule here as well to kind of just be a lot more available so I can do this. So I actually haven't been doing too many discords outside of my time windows of a workday and this late night. I do want to keep these late night sessions to just an hour. Thankfully, my girlfriend's not here. She's coming. Actually, she'll be here in about 30 minutes. So that's why I was going a little bit longer until she gets back. So it's been really nice on that front. I'm very privileged to be able to do this. And then thankfully my dogs don't bother me too much. It's great. My dogs even know when I chat, they don't bother me. But as soon as this chat ends, they all jump on top of me. So works out pretty nicely here as well. So guys, if there's other tools that you might need or other resources you might need, just ask us and in the chat. Guys, we have not only do we have the Samurai Hall open for you, but we have the Koi Pond with a bunch of different topics. Jump into those threads here as well. If you can do it, you're just going to get way more knowledge here too. And I hope that you'll be all able to be in a better position of stacking those sats right. And of course, getting to a position where you keep winning. And I'm telling you, if you want to Ronin, all just be here. And dude, like Alex, let me be very clear. You're absolutely going to get a Ronin. Like on your profile, you're absolutely going to get a Ronin. Don't even worry about it, right? Like that's what I'm telling you is like the PFP, I wouldn't even worry about in your guys' mind here, mainly because you guys will all get it if you're supporting this, right? And that's kind of like a very important thing as you kind of engage here. All we ask is help others acquire sats and make sure you're acquiring sats. If you show us you're doing it with just some effort, we're going to give you Ronin. That's the only thing. Ronin is not here for us to protect. Ronin's here to give out to you guys, right? We just did a small airdrop because we wanted to get the inscriptions done in that 69 million prior to having, so that we already have it in the supply and you can see it. But in the end, right, this is a new mint where it's a collector mint and we're just going to distribute it out to you. So you're going to get a free claim on this as well, which is awesome. So I promise you, we've only given out 20% of our supply, and a large amount of that supply went out to other airdrops. A lot of our future supply is not going out to other airdrop partners as well. It's only going to community people and shadow members here. So you are going to be good. Prof J asks, how many sats do you want in each UTXO and how many number of UTXOs to create? So right now, what I'd probably be recommending, if you can afford it, right? Let's go back to that Kraken tool here at the moment right now. Oops, Kraken's one. So this is just like looking at, the breakdowns of sats to conversions here, because it's always a little bit tough. So, what a lot of people are probably recommending, depending on these fees, is probably putting them into batches of 500,000 sats. And the real reason why you're trying to batch them into 500,000 sats, it's a little bit pricey. It's 0.005 BTC, right, would be the grouping there on 500,000 sats. right? But what you want to understand is that that would allow you to be able to buy your maximum amount of transactions in a 2000 sat world, right? So I know there's going to sound like only for G is right. The whale strategy is you should have one wallet where you have UTXOs broken up at 1 million each. You have another wallet where you have UTXOs broken up 500,000 each. And you have another wallet where you have UTXOs broken up at 250,000 each. And the idea is that you're optimizing those wallets for batch mints based off what the SAT fees are going to be in those early blocks, right? And what you then will do is you'll choose the wallet that would allow you to get the most optimal amount of batch mints. So what you would then want to be trying to calculate is based off the SAT fees is like, cool, if it's anything above 2,500 sats, I'm probably 2,500 sats per virtual byte in terms of the fees. I'm probably using the UTXOs that are broken out for 100, in 1 million chunks because I need that to be able to batch mint and get the maximum amount in that block, right? That's kind of what you want, right? In this an ideal scenario. But then if you see the fees around like or around 500, you might use the wallet with the smaller UTXO breakdown because then you could be more efficient in claiming. Because what you're essentially trying to calculate out, right? What the logic here is that you're trying to calculate out what is the total amount of sats needed to claim a rune mint. And again, shout out to Shiroi. He shared it earlier in the chat. Let me see if I could grab it here really quickly. God damn, like I love how active this chat is. Because I can't even find Shiroi's fucking point. Up here. Wait, no. Shiroi, where did you put this? I know you put it in here. Here it is. Found it. Um, these are copied from Twitter. Here we go. So these are the initial estimates, right? What we already know is how much sats it cost to essentially do a rune mint, right? So it's essentially at 1 sat per virtual byte, assuming sat fees are at 1. It costs you 171 sat, right? But the expectation is that this is probably going to be above in that early block around minimum, I think 500. I think realistically, it's going to be 1,000 plus to 2,500 plus, right? So let's say it's 1,000 to 5,000. Let's just use that this 1,000 to 2,000 and 5,000 block here that I just copy pasted in the chat, right? At 1,000 sats, what it's telling you is that in order to properly claim, right, a single mint efficiently, you would need 171,000 sats per UTXO, right? That would be the ideal efficiency exactly at 1,000 sat. So this is kind of why a lot of people are considering breaking in at 250,000 sats, 500,000 sats, or 1 million sats, right? That's kind of what people are doing. And that's for the people who are trying to be hyper efficient. I don't think you need to be that hyper efficient. So yeah, Shiroi, I think 200,000 or 250,000 is probably good enough. And the truth is that understanding if you do slightly smaller, what's good is that you're actually covered in all scenarios. You're just paying slightly more gas fee for the use of extra UTXOs, right? So I think doing something between 100 to 200,000 is fine if you're not playing too many games. If you're trying to play multiple games, then those fees might be crazy, right? And then you could kind of be able to kind of experiment and be able to get this right stuff. Prof J says, would you recommend using Max here? No, I wouldn't recommend using Max if you're assuming. Well, I don't know how much is in your UTXOs, right? The thing is that you don't want to max out. It's based off how much Bitcoin is in that wallet, right? So because of Bitcoin in that wallet here, right, you want to then know how many chunks should that be in. So Prof J, when I'm looking at the image you just sent me, right, what it shows is that you already have 3 UTXOs. So what I would do is I'd click that, view my 3 UTXOs real quick. Click that and then see what are the sizes they are broken up in. Because that's the other important thing. You might see a scenario where one of your UTXOs has 95% of your BTC.
right? So the key is actually you want to get multiple UTXOs at the level that you effectively want. And max is not necessary. Max just means that you're going to incur a little bit more fees here. Okay. So now we're looking at this here. So you could look at it. So clearly in this scenario, it's exactly what I mentioned. 99%, 95% of your net value in this wallet is all into one UTXO at 2 million sats. So ideally what you'd want to do is you'd break that UTXO1 into, depending on the number you want, if you wanted 200,000, you'd break that up into 10 more UTXOs there, right? That would be your ideal scenario here that you'd want to optimize for. And then you'll break it up, and then you'd have 10 UTXOs with 200,000 sats would be ideal. So that's kind of how you want to look at those numbers. Seeing how you actually break them down is based off those numbers. Worst comes to worst, you could still do max breakup and get a distribution here as well. But yeah, what I would essentially do is take that UTXO1 and break that up into 5 or 10 spots, and you'll be in a much better spot there as well. Yeah, don't get me wrong, this UTXO optimization totally sucks, right? It's this unnecessary wallet optimization, right? But remember, Bitcoin was never built for these microtransactions to an extent, like in terms of speed, right? Like when Satoshi was making this stuff, he wasn't like, holy fuck, I cannot wait for people to sell stupid JPEGs of my fake Asian face because they don't know what I look at the highest speed, at the highest rate, at the highest claim speeds, right? This is not what he was ever anticipating to be created. Because that's the honest truth, is Ordinals is morphing, right? Ordinal theory is morphing on top of what Bitcoin can become. And because of that, right, it gets this huge other element to understand, right, in this kind of market, is realizing, even when we're dealing with, all of these kind of structures, it's all going to feel very new because we're also building new tech within the structure. Yeah, it shouldn't be that expensive to split right now. It should be all under $10. Like, what's the current fee on Ordpool? Yeah, it's 40 sats. Wow, it was 26 sats in the last block. Shit, I might just go mint some stuff or go drop some stuff here, which would be really great. Yes, Shepard just said, so 171,000 times 0.0001 BTC would be 0.001 BTC would be the fee for 1,000 sats per virtual byte, right? So that's him breaking down what 171,000 sats would be at that level here as well. So you're going to see more of this stuff kind of coming in here. So make sure you're at least spending time to understand this. You don't have to over optimize for it. It just sucks that we do have to do these extra tasks, but that's also where the wealth is accumulated. Take the extra step when 90% of the market won't, right? That's your advantage here. Take 90% of the market here as well. You're going to be really good. Yeah, Texas, I think you're misunderstanding. So, Texas, are you familiar with Gwei? Like, do you understand how Gwei is the microatomic currency of Ethereum? Yeah. So, sats are the same thing as Gwei for Bitcoin, right? Like, you want to understand that it's a fractional, right? So, in every Bitcoin, right, there are Satoshi. It's made up of sub Satoshis. There's 100 million Satoshis in one Bitcoin. That is what a sat is. Sat is just short for Satoshi, which is the microcurrency there. So whenever we refer to sats, we're just referring to a micro number of BTC, right? That will be needed for that transaction. So that's all it is. Great. I'm glad you got it now. And that's what this whole point is. I'm glad we can do these live chats. It is a little bit new. It's a little bit different. So again, there might be times we'll push back and tell you when you ask like simple questions, we'll always tell you and point you to resources. But even when you have a tough question, ask it here and we'll keep optimizing to keep learning for each and every one of you guys here too. All right, I gotta go now. I also gotta fucking eat dinner. It's 10:45 and I forgot about this here as well. We did not go over commands here on a, but what we can do, Cookie Monster, if helpful, we'll give you a few guides here as well. We're not actually optimizing for BTC nodes here. So to be very transparent, if you want more like really hardcore node support, I'd recommend communities like Wizards of Ord or, of course, like Pizza Ninjas at the moment right now. We're more than happy to give you tools and research here.
But the current like bet that we're making as a community is that majority of our interactions won't be needed with nodes here at the moment. But don't get me wrong, you should, if you have a node, you got one step up. I hope it plays out in our favor. I got my node. I hope I don't need to use it though. That's what I'm hoping for, and I hope that's all for the case. Yeah, these short sessions of 90 minutes or an hour and 45 minutes. Holy cow, we're well over. But thanks for asking the questions. Thanks for being engaging, guys. Thanks for trying to actively learn. Like this is a very different Discord in this design. It is truly about us making a step forward to getting more sats each time. I hope I get you closer to each of your goals. With that all, we're going to let you all go. Enjoy the rest of your night and or day, and we'll chat soon. Oh, yeah, and shout out the Ordinal Discord is great as well. I'll share those links tomorrow as well for all those details too. With that all, we'll let you all go. Chat soon. Bye-bye now.